G'day and welcome to ReDriven. Now this, the Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT, might just be the most polarizing car that we've had on ReDriven so far. Why polarizing? Well look, when we were doing the research for this video and we went through forums and owner satisfaction reports, it's like a 50-50 split between people going, I've had one of these things for years, I love it, never had a drama, best car ever, versus I've had one of these things for years, it's an absolute piece of shit, everything's gone wrong, I hate it. Even what it encompasses is polarizing because on one hand, fitting performance suspension to an SUV instantly makes it a pretty crap SUV, and because it is fundamentally an SUV, it's never really going to be a performance car, so it's just massively compromised in every way. But on the other hand, it's the perfect blend of performance and practicality, and it's awesome value for a car that offers so much image and personality. So which is it then? Are these actually any good at all? And especially now that they're a few years old and have a few thousand kilometers on them, what goes wrong with them? Are they reliable? What do they cost to own, operate and maintain? What do they like to live with every day? And most importantly, should you buy one? Let's find out. Now, before we get deep into the Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT, actually, hang on. I'm Australian, we abbreviate everything. In this video, this is just now an SRT, okay? It's just an SRT. Okay, let's go again. Now, before we get deep into the SRT, can you please do us a favor and hit those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons, and after the video, go follow us on all the socials. Now this isn't just a case of grabbing a regular 4th generation WK2 Grand Cherokee and throwing a big V8 in it. There's so much more to it than that. It has high performance suspension and brakes, the entire body shell was reinforced, the transmission and diffs are all different, and there are a load of SRT specific enhancements to these things. Now a lot of the issues and problems that are seen on normal Grand Cherokees do affect the SRT, but in this video we're going to be focusing on the SRT issues mainly because we've got a Grand Cherokee video coming up down the track. So this video, SRT, another video down the track, Grand Cherokee. Also in this video, we will be focusing on the Australian variants of the SRT, but if you're not from Australia, don't freak out because everything we're going to be going over should relate to SRTs in your local market. The SRT has been available in Australia since 2012 and it's still a current model. During its life cycle, it has received continual updates, most substantially in 2013 and 2017, receiving subtle facelifts and extra and improved equipment and features. 2018 and 2020 saw improvements to the levels of tech, which we'll cover later on, and some extra aesthetic updates. And look, we love to go over every graphic detail of every update to the SRT, but look, that'd just take far too long. But we have gathered all that information and we've put it in our handy ReDriven cheat sheets. Our cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before handing over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out at redriven.com or in the link below. Now look, if you own an SRT or you're an SRT expert and you've noticed that we've missed something in this video, please let us know in the comments section below. Like, we're doing our best to cover everything, but we generally find it's those that own these that are the real experts. So yeah, again, if we've missed something, let us know. So, does it look good? Guys, come on. Like, it can't just be me. This thing looks awesome. It's so like muscular and tough looking. But I need to point something out real quick. Black cars are an absolute nightmare to shoot. So thank you, Sam, for doing such a great job because the camera can't pick up all the curves and everything going on with this. But I'm sure you've seen these on the street. You know how good they look. It's even a good size. Like, it's a big lug of a thing, but it's not too big. Like, so many SUVs now are just getting bloody huge. But this, it's just right. Right, issues and problems and things to look out for. Let's get the SRT stuff out of the road first. Yep. Now, we know of loads of reports where the clear coat is actually peeling off the wheels and the brake calipers. It is happening just here a little bit. But even worse than that, we know of owners that have tried to rectify this with Jeep and just Jeep refused to help. Next up, the tyres. Look, these things are quick, but they're pretty bloody heavy and that puts a lot of stress on the tyres. And to get the best out of the SRT performance and dynamics wise, we recommend fitting either the Pirellis that come on them standard or another high performance tyre. The drum with that is that they're pretty bloody expensive. You're going to be looking anywhere between $500 to $800 a tyre. And look, yes, there are cheaper alternatives, but again, if you want the best out of it, fit some good rubber. Also, because these things are heavy, it takes some serious stopping power to pull them up, hence why they're fitted with Brembos. The only problem with Brembos is that replacing the rotors and pads is expensive. You're going to look anywhere between $800 to $1,700 just for the fronts to replace. There are aftermarket options like DBA, but even that price doesn't include labour to fit them. Next up, the windscreen. We know of reports where the windscreen either hasn't been fitted correctly from the factory or the adhesive used is starting to wear, which means it leaks and water gets inside your SRT. The problem with that is your SRT might end up smelling like a disused public toilet, and that's just gross. Also, and this isn't really an issue we see much in Australia, but in areas that have a lot of snow and therefore salted roads, there are reports of rust forming underneath. So if you are in the market for one, make sure you get underneath and look for any signs of rust. And while you're under there, check for any signs of abuse or damage or dodgy repair work. And speaking of dodgy repair work, because these things are quite fast and quite heavy, they can impact the scenery pretty quickly if they're driven beyond their limits. So make sure you go over all the paintwork, make sure it matches both in color and consistency. And just, check for any accident damage. Now, normally I'd tell you to go over the whole car and look for any mismatches in the panel gaps, but because it's a Jeep, they're just mismatched generally. Even on this car, the panel gaps are all over the shop. So that's not dodgy repair work, that's just an issue with the build quality. There are other things to check that are more Grand Cherokee issues rather than SRT specific things, like the door hinges getting creaky and hard to use, or the fuel doors breaking off, or the keyless entry and central locking freaking out. But look, we'll cover all of those things in the Grand Cherokee video coming out soon. So how's the interior? Well, look, from a design aspect, it's okay. It is aging a little bit. It's not bad. It's not overly good. It's just starting to get a little old and tired in here, but it's a nice place to be. The seats, now there are reports that some people don't find these seats at all comfortable. Loads of reports of that. Personally, I think these are super comfy. Obviously, seat comfort is subjective. The sitting position is great, and the seats, for me, delightful. Now, as far as wear and tear goes, even this is polarizing like the rest of the car. The good news is like the leather on the armrests here, the leather on the steering wheel, the seat condition, all wearing really well. Even this silver paint here, which you'd normally think would scratch up and look terrible, is aging really nicely. But on the flip side of that, there are some common problems that this car is guilty of. There are loads of reports that this carbon fiber trim can come off, which it is right here. There are heaps of reports of the dashboard leather starting to kind of bubble and fall apart, which it is here. And it feels like the SRT wants to keep up this tough guy image by either cutting or stabbing you, because there are loads of reports that where this silver bit on the steering wheel joins, the paint can peel off and it gets incredibly like razor sharp and will cut you. This car isn't guilty of that, but that's just a bit scary. Also, we know of loads of reports where these door lock actuators fail, meaning that the remote won't open or close the central locking, which means you might be stuck inside or outside or have to use the key like some sort of, I don't know, normal human. Even when it comes to buttons and things that you push and touch, they're all different depending on what they are. For example, up here, like this is super squeaky and just feels pretty dodgy. But then like these buttons, these feel lovely, but then these ones just feel a bit cheap and dodgy. So the back seat, I'm 0.00188 kilometres tall. This is in my driving position and there's heaps of room back here. It's really comfy. These seats recline, which is fantastic, but loads of room. It feels quite airy too because the glass house is quite large, heaps of headroom. Very comfortable back here. As far as wear and tear goes, again, polarizing, very good and very bad. The leather is wearing really well. This is a family car, gets a workout, but the leather feels great. The seats feel excellent. A lot of these touch points feel really good, but then look at this. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. This is the interior trim. Sorry, I'll just pop that back there. Excellent Jeep. So how's the tech? Well, look, the levels of tech are going to vary depending on what year model of SRT you're looking at, but anything prior to 2020 is pretty crap. The infotainment system is built around Jeep's Uconnect technology, which has improved with every single upgrade, but we do know of loads of reports where this screen has failed or just turned completely blue or completely green. It does just need a reset, but it's just annoying you have to do that at all. Also, this screen in direct sunlight, like if you've got the sunroof open, is near impossible to see or read or make any sense of. And plus, all the app functionality, it just takes forever. You push a button, it's like, there we go. There we go. It takes too long. But what do you get in terms of tech? Well, here's me doing a voiceover. As I just mentioned, what you get will vary on year and update, but all SRTs operate Uconnect via at least an 8.4-inch touchscreen, offering voice-activated navigation systems, rear parking assist with screen view, and audible warnings. Plus, the SRT itself offers smart beam headlamps, 5 driver selectable dynamic modes, and the option of a 19-speaker 825-watt Harman Kardon audio system, while Apple CarPlay and Android Auto make an appearance from the 2020 year model onwards. For all the graphic details, just check out the cheat sheet on the website. And tech in the back, you've got these awesome flip-up screens, which also come with HDMI inputs and AV inputs and 2 USB ports. So is it practical? Yes, it's very practical. Although we do know of reports where the powered tailgate has failed, making it less practical because you can't actually get in or out of the boot. But when that thing works, it's very spacious back here. Lovely. And practicality in the back seat, you have 2 cup holders in the armrest, and you've got some nets in case you need to put your fish somewhere after a fishing trip. You've got your own air vents and climate control and heated seats. Oh, and some door pockets as well. And that's it. And up front, you have a cubby hole just here next to the Blu-ray player. So old school. You've got a cubby hole in here. There's a couple of cup holders there. A very squeaky sunglasses holder up there. Good sized door pockets and door bins. And that's about it. Oh, glove box as well. That's about it. So what goes wrong with these mechanically? Well, it is a Jeep, but I'm not a mechanic, so I'm not qualified to tell you, but Jim is.
Okay, there's a Jeep Grand Cherokee video coming up pretty soon. Spoiler alert, they're a bit shit, but the SRT is less shit. Out of all the Jeeps, the 6.4 Hemi is by far the best, most reliable and strongest and best engine, although at 100,000 Ks-ish, they're due for a major service, which includes 16 spark plugs, which is expensive, so just keep that in mind. As far as things that do go wrong, we've seen a few leaking water pumps and just general engine plumbing fails occasionally. I have had personal experience with the transfer cases on these being an absolute nightmare, the way they do the torque biasing thing all over the place. Can be fixed. Other than that, generally pretty strong. However, one of the things they do share with a lot of the other Jeep Grand Cherokees is electrical gremlins, a lot of computer software problems, and a few reliability issues in that area. Adam did touch on this. Because of all that engine power, they do go through brakes really quickly. Yeah, it is a beast, but keep in mind, if it's been flogged or badly modified, which is likely, it's going to cause you problems.
Is it safe? Well, it's a 2-ton SUV with a 6.4 litre Hemi V8 under the bonnet, so it would want to be safe. But here's me doing another voiceover to tell you what safety features it does have. Cheers, mate. The SRT comes with adaptive cruise control, anti-lock brakes with rough road detection, blind spot monitoring, electronic roll mitigation, rain brake support, rear cross path alerts, trailer sway control, 7 airbags, and a 5-star ANCAP safety rating. So, what's it like to drive? Well, look, I'm not the most masculine of men. You know, I'm obsessed with little coffees on my hair, and apparently, according to some of the comments on YouTube, my jeans are far too tight. But driving this thing, it just makes you feel like a real man. I feel like I need to, I don't know, go and cut down a tree or fix someone's oven. Okay, the brakes are, they're like a safe word that actually gets recognised in the heat of the moment. There's so much confidence through that pedal. There's actually like communication coming through the pedal. So if you're hammering through some like winding roads like these, as you're braking into the corner, you can shift the balance and the weight of the car around. It's just, they're just great. The brakes are underrated with this. Everyone raves about the engine, but the brakes are fantastic. But all is not perfect. Look, because the engine and the performance and the sound envelops you in the driving experience, even small distractions just become really annoying. Speaking of the transmission and bad designs from Jeep, this gear selector here is just shit. Like, you don't really know, it's not intuitive at all. Like, you think you're in reverse, but you're actually in park, or you think you're in drive, but you're actually in neutral. It's really hard to judge what you're in. Not good enough. The suspension isn't great. Like, even when these were new, the suspension was very firm and like in auto mode, but with thousands of kilometers and many years on the clock, it's pretty harsh and crashy, especially at the back end. It doesn't give you a lot of confidence if you're having any performance driving, but even around town, it's way too firm. There is a track mode that is purely for billiard tables and racetracks, because on these sorts of roads, it's unbearable. Yes, the engine and exhaust sound fantastic, but you're distracted from that because of the amount of rattles and wind noise and other sounds going on in here. Wind noise, there's wind noise coming from over here. If the sunroof's open, it kind of howls. Because it's like basically a block of apartments going very quickly, the overall aerodynamics is pretty rubbish, so the whole thing has wind noise. But there's rattles everywhere. In the dashboard, down here somewhere there's a rattle, in the back there's a rattle. But even worse, there's mechanical sounds, I think, within the suspension and maybe within the gearbox. It just doesn't sound that healthy. So you want to get up and have some fun, but at the same time, it's just, there's a lot of other stuff going on. It's frustrating. Another annoying thing, these stupid paddle shifters. Like, they're so small. I know a lot of people complain about these, but what a ridiculous design. Like, yes, they work, but bad design, Jeep. Also, if you go to overtake a car and you're a little bit too close, the emergency braking can activate and it nearly sends you through the windscreen because the car kind of freaks out. It doesn't understand that you're overtaking and it just gets a bit too safe. That's annoying. In a more real world situation, like, you know, driving around town, look, the vision's really good. It's easy to maneuver and park. The dimensions are really easy to judge. So, you know, tight driveways or tight car parking spots are pretty simple. And it feels nice around town. It's just gets a little bit let down when you start trying to get enthusiastic. The steering for me is a bit overly light and a bit overly vague. It might be the tyres, might be the suspension wearing out, but just, again, like, if it's supposed to be a performance car, it doesn't have proper performance car steering. So overall, what's it like to drive? Look, again, like the whole thing, it's polarizing. Like, on one hand, the performance and the sound and what it does in a straight line is just phenomenal and beautiful. And around town, yeah, it's a kind of cool posery sort of car and it does what it's supposed to do. But then it's let down by noises and rattles and squeaks and shit suspension. And I know, in one way it's really good and the other way it's not very good at all. Don't know. Pricing here in Australia kicks off from around about $40,000 for say a 2013 SRT with loads of kilometres in reasonable condition, and it tops out at, I can't believe I've been saying this, around about $130,000 for say a 2020 SRT in immaculate condition and loaded with optional extras. And something like this, a 2014 SRT with a decent amount of Ks on it in pretty good condition, you're going to be looking at around about 55 grand. And here's some average pricing for some other markets. Jeep give the SRT a claimed fuel consumption figure of 14 litres per 100 Ks, which is absolutely hilarious. And if you can achieve that, you have like special forces levels of self-discipline, because on this test, we're seeing figures closer to 19. Jeep offered a 3-year, 100,000 kilometre warranty, which was upgraded to 5 years in 2017 on all SRTs, meaning a lot of these still have some factory support left on them. However, calling it support might be stretching the truth a little bit, because maybe it's just here in Australia, but Jeep have a horrific reputation when it comes to after-sales support. So much so that I've got friends that own Jeeps and they refuse to deal with Jeep under any circumstance. Servicing is recommended at every 12,000 kilometres, and it used to be every 6 months, but again in 2017 it was upgraded to every 12 months. However, if you are driving these things with a bit of enthusiasm, we'd be updating those oils and fluids pretty regularly. Now look, this is a Jeep, so things are going to go wrong with it and you are going to need spare parts, but before you go buying Jeep OEM parts, do your research, because the aftermarket part world for these things is immense, and you might be able to get aftermarket parts that'll be both cheaper and possibly better quality than the Jeep OEM stuff. So should you buy one? This is so tough because it is so much car for the money. This level of performance, theatre and image from anything wearing a European badge is going to cost tens of thousands of dollars more than this. So in one way, it's a bit of a bargain, especially second-hand. But it is still a Jeep, and things just go wrong with Jeeps. It's that simple. See, this thing's like being in a relationship with like a stripper or a porn star or some kind of bad boy who's all big and muscular and has neck tattoos and just likes beating people up occasionally. For a period of time, that's really exciting and heaps of fun. But the problem is the novelty of those naughty and exciting attributes, they do wear off and they just won't have the same appeal that they once did. So look, we love these things in like a short-term relationship sense. Like, get one, go and have some wild and crazy fun, do some exciting and naughty things, but when the novelty wears off, maybe it's time to break up. But be very careful, because it's so easy to fall in love with these things. And if you're not emotionally, financially and mentally prepared to deal with the torture that these things can put you through, you may have your heart and wallet broken. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and hey, what did you think of the SRT? Let us know in the comments below. And hey, can you do us a favor and hit those like, subscribe and bell icon buttons, and go and follow us on all the socials. See you next time. Let us know in the comments below. And hey, can you also... Okay, here we go. 5-year, 100,000 kilometre... Whoa. They can be expensive, and these are things. Okay, here we go. Make sure you go and check out some aftermarket parts. Okay, here we go. Throwing a V8 and some oh, you bastard. And look, while we'd love to go over every graphic detail of every, but we have done that. You bastard. There we go. Here we go. But we haven't gathered all that. And look, we'd love to go over it.